Hey everyone, welcome to the Monday night live stream where we talk about music, movies, trivia, television, general entertainment of growing up Generation X, and today is going to be no exception. We are going to be talking about Saturday morning cartoons. Yes, as I said on the podcast, if you were born between 1965 and 1980, some people stretch it to 1984, then Saturday morning cartoons was part of your ritual. And you heard me and Thrash Pondo Ponds talk about cartoons and what cartoons we liked and what cartoons we didn't mind going to get an extra bowl of cereal while it was on. And I'm sure there's a lot of them that we missed, but I definitely want to hear your opinion. I want to hear what your favorite cartoons were of that era. I'm going to bring Thrash Pondo Ponds on with me right now. Hello, Thrash. How are you doing?
Hey Ian, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing really good. I'm super excited to talk about this. It's been crazy at my channel. I don't know if you've noticed, but since we did that Saturday morning cartoon,
Hmm.
um, my channel has jumped like 30 subscribers, and it's now sitting at like 400 and let me see, a view. Oh no, the views on that video are now at 444. So I'm at 444 views, and literally I think it kind of leveled out a little bit, but literally it was like I was watching it yesterday. I turned it on, and it was like at 200 and something, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And then like in 24 hours it jumped another 200. I was just like, what's going, it was like 231 that I checked. And then in, like I said, in 24 hours it's doubled that. And I think it's slowed down a little bit, but I just kept checking back, and it was just like three more views, four more views, five more views, 10 more views. It was incredible. It was crazy. Now, part of it was that Dave shared it on his channel. Every time he shares it, it kind of goes up a little bit, but this went up way more than it normally does. I mean, especially given the time, that it went up. I mean, it just started to roll as far as views go. And then my subscription, like I said, my subscription rating went up. And also, I'm going to be doing something special when we reach 500. I've got a special thing planned out. We're not that far away. We're only 56 subscribers away from being at 500. That's when they give me a community page. And what the community pages, that's when you can do polls and you can make announcements and stuff. So like right now, like I like if like I can't do a live stream or something comes up, or we're gonna move it to another night, or if we're gonna have a special guest on or something, I can't announce it. I mean, basically, I guess I can announce it on Twitter, but I don't really do Twitter that well. Yeah, I mean, when they give me a page, then it'll be more, YouTube relatable. Everybody will be able to see it. So, how are you doing, Thrash?
I'm doing very well. You know that I did my first solo live post last week, and I got some excellent feedback from that. Um, and I would have probably gotten more had people known about it because, of course, I can't make announcements either.
Right.
Fortunately, Danny Staten made an announcement for me. Thanks again, Dan. And I'm hoping we can get the ball rolling more that way. But again, people seem to love it, and I actually have another one coming out this week. I spoke to Pat McCormick, of course, from the Golden Rage of TV,
Hmm.
and he had nothing planned for this Wednesday, so he has graciously yielded his time slot to me this week.
Oh,
So I'm
cool.
I'm going to do another solo live chat this coming Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And the big news, at least for this week, can't speak to other weeks, that's other weeks, but this coming Thursday, I've been invited to join Dave Sunstrom, Big Dave, on his channel, and we're going to be talking about the greatest post-apocalyptic sci-fi TV series of all time in a single season, Planet of the Apes, the TV series.
Yeah, cool. That's cool. So you can be talking about just the TV series, or are you going to do the whole genre?
Well,
TV
it's hard to
series.
talk about one and not the other. I'm sure the conversation will dip into the film franchise as well,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to be focusing specifically on the TV series because
Mm.
that's the part that seems to get the least amount of attention from the fans of the franchise. People love talking about the movie. Um, um, and even the short-lived animated series, but nobody seems to talk much about the TV series. It
Mm.
has some, but we're going to give it more.
You're gonna give it more. You're gonna boost
More.
its ratings. People are gonna be searching Tubi to watch it after you guys get done with your review and talking about it and riffing on it. So I look forward to that.
Precisely.
All right, we're gonna jump into the topic today is about cartoons, and but before we do that, I want to say hi to people in the channel. So Thrash, bring up some folks and let's say hi to everybody who's
I
here so
will
far.
bring up some folks. We have Darrell Johnson, who mentions Space Coast was cool.
Yeah, it was. I really, I know a lot of people really liked it. Had a really cult following. I can't say that I was super into it. I was into it later, like the few times I watched it, I was into it. Um, but um, but I know that it's got a crazy cult following, and deservedly so. Deservedly.
And Lance Cheffin says, hello, Lance. And he
Hello,
says,
Lance.
grape ape, grape ape.
Grape ape. Yeah, we love the grape ape. We'll get. I'm going to save my comments on some of these things. Let's just go ahead and say hi to
The, with
the
the
people.
hellos.
Yeah,
And we
the
have
hellos.
Superplex, who loved Dudley Do Right, though. And
Yes.
these three have been having a lovely conversation while they were waiting for us to join, but I know we got a few more. So I'm scrolling down, chatting over myself, scrolling, so you people don't notice that. Here's one. Hungry Jerk is in the house who says, hi, everyone.
Hey, hungry jerk, how you doing?
And actually, let me just. That. Oh, no, nope, nope.
We've
Oh,
got
Tracy.
Tracy.
Tracy
How you
Ruff
doing, my dear?
Myers.
Glad you could be here with us today,
And Mr. Led. Hey, everyone. Lance,
Mr.
Daryl,
Lad.
Hungry, Tracy, Mr. Z, and of course, ENC and Thrash.
Oh, glad you could be with us today to talk about such an important topic about growing up Generation X. Thank you,
And of course,
Lisa.
Lisa Fields. How you doing, Lisa? She says
Hi,
hi, guys.
Lisa. Hi,
A few more here.
Dave.
Dave Claroni says hi, gang. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
And James
Oh,
Borland is in the house.
James
Um,
Borland. Cool.
and he
Nice to
says,
have you with us. I think this is your first time with us. Glad you could be with us. It's going to be a ton of fun talking about this Saturday morning ritual.
we'll get back to that question in just a moment. I just want to make sure that we have said hello to everyone at this
Hmm.
stage.
Hmm.
I think.
Well, as people kind of come into the chat a little bit,
Mhm.
John H is here. Hey, John, and as people kind of come into the chat a little bit, we'll say hi to you as we go along, if we catch it. One of the things that I mentioned on the podcast that I as I go back and I listen to it, sometimes you don't complete a thought. And one of the thoughts that I didn't complete was I talked about the various situations that I grew up in as a result of my mother being a single mother and a working mother. And one of the things that I didn't say, I didn't kind of conclude that thought, and that is that my Saturday morning ritual changed. So it would change depending upon whether I was just with my mom, or whether it was my grandmother, or whether I was with other, spending that at a friend's house or one of these second family houses. The ritual would change. So it was hard for me to kind of put like this was my ritual every Saturday. Every Saturday I'd get a bowl of cereal or whatever, and then that was it. So it changed over the course of my life. It wasn't terribly stable at this time at different times, and I was subject, obviously, when you are at somebody else's house, you're subject to what they watch on Saturday morning. You can't just turn on the TV like you own the place, right?
Correct. And
Right.
God knows I ran into that enough growing up as a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
All right, well let's get into it. Let's talk about some of the Saturday morning rituals. I'm interested in hearing your guys' favorite Saturday morning cartoons or comments on the cartoon on the podcast that we did, the video cast that we did on cartoons. Whichever way you want to go about it. If you see anything cool up there, let me know.
Okay. Oh, here's one because we actually talked about this ourselves. Lance Chevin said the All-Star left Olympics, but he later goes on to correct himself. The Laugh Olympics. Do
Yeah,
you remember the Laugh Olympics?
was that when they did the whole Snagglepuss and Yogi Bear and
It was
Flintstones?
it was all the Hanna Barberas, and they broke them up into three teams. Um, all I remember are the really rottens. They were the bad team that always cheated and always got their comeuppance towards the end. But there were two other teams that you could also
Yeah,
root for that were basically a split of the good Hanna Barbera characters. So you
right.
had like a round robin battle.
Didn't they have the Jetsons and Flintstones together, and then kind of the Snagglepuss
Yeah, I was gonna
and
say
Yogi
I
Bear
remember. I
together?
remember more the anthropomorphic characters like Magilla Gorilla and
Uh-huh.
Snagglepuss and Peter Potamus and those type of things. I'm not sure how they divvied up the team,
You know,
but maybe someone.
you know what I felt bad for? I felt bad for the dog on the bad guys team. You know, the dog that went
Muttley, Muttley,
Muttley. I felt
Muttley. Yeah.
bad for him because it wasn't his fault. He's just a dog, you
Well,
know?
possibly, but he was into some shenanigans himself. Some
Ah,
people think he was actually the criminal mastermind who basically hid in the background because he was just the dog, but that it
yeah.
was actually all him.
I got to tell you, I felt bad for him, and I do remember a few of those people. I remember the other dog too, the doggy daddy and Augie baby or whatever it was. Remember that?
Oh, I
Augie
forget the actual
doggy and
breakdown.
doggy daddy, Augie doggy and doggy
And
daddy.
the daddy, for some reason, talked like Jimmy Durante. Is all
Yeah.
I remember.
Well,
And
they
Superbook
all.
says a really good show was when they did a cartoon version of Star Trek.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that was one of the more popular. Whenever I say, "Hey, they've done a cartoon based on a television series," that's like the first thing I think everyone thinks of. That one in Gilligan's Island, Gilligan's Planet. Yeah, I never really got into them too much, but go
Darrell
ahead.
Jones says the Beatles. I remember seeing that. Do you?
That's all you, man. You fly with that one because I don't remember
Well,
that at all.
well, I gotta ask you something. Did you watch MTV at all when you were a kid?
Yeah, probably. I'm gonna guess around 86 or 87, somewhere
Be-
around there is when we finally got it.
because around that time, MTV started showing those Beatles cartoons. That's how because for years I actually thought it was like a child's memory, like it didn't actually happen. Like I somehow remembered there was a Beatles cartoon,
Right.
but it didn't actually exist. And then MTV, when I was like in my late teens, MTV started showing it in their lineup. See, but you don't remember it from MTV either, do you?
It's one of those things that I have like this faint memory of, but I don't trust it. It's almost like it might be a false memory. I don't know if you've ever had that and you think you remember something, but you kind of don't.
I can gaslight myself. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, they did show it. They actually have a few. For those of you who have an interest, they have a few episodes of the Beatles cartoon on YouTube. I've seen a couple of them.
Yeah.
So, but it's nice that somebody else remembers it too. Lens Chaffin says the Godzilla cartoon. Do you remember the Godzilla cartoon? It might have been a little.
I don't
Yeah,
remember the Godzilla cartoon at all.
it was known as the Godzilla Power Hour. Oh, and by the way, I seem to have gone um still shut, but I'm going to
That's okay.
persevere. Yeah,
Go
because this way I can
persevere.
still read.
Let's
I'm going to
keep.
still read the comments.
Yeah.
Um, it was a Saturday morning cartoon, and Godzilla was a good guy. And what happened was there was a family of scientists who spent most of their time, even though they were scientists, they spent most of their time crime fighting and using their scientific knowledge to fight crime. And Godzilla was their friend, and Godzilla's inexplicable nephew called Godzuki, who was there mostly for comic relief. And they would have some pretty cool adventures, and again use their scientific know-how to get out of tight spots. I think it was at the time when they were still trying to make kids shows educational.
Mm,
The educational part was lost on us, but it was a great Saturday morning show.
right, right, yeah.
Let's see what else we got going on here. Lance Jeffin says Blue Falcon and Dino Mutt.
Blue Falcon and Dynamite. Is that a Hanna-Barbera thing?
It was. They were actually both included in the Laugh Olympics. It was intended as a superhero crime fighting cartoon, but very tongue in cheek. Blue Falcon, of course, was like your Batman character, and he had his sidekick was a robotic dog that had
Oh,
like
okay.
go gadget arms and whatnot.
Right, right, yeah.
And it was actually parts of it were actually very very funny.
Cool.
Um, but again, they were also included in the Laugh Olympics. Lance Chapin says
Oh
Battle
my
of the
gosh.
Planets theme was awesome.
Yeah. There's a Toy Galaxy thing on Battle of the Planets, and you should watch it definitely. I don't know if you guys will like Toy Galaxy or not. I'll be honest with you. Um, when I was forming this channel, there were two there were two major influences that I kind of wanted to emulate when I was, for videos. And one was Toy Galaxy for sure, and the other one was a guy named Fanboy Flicks, and he does bad movies with Mark. And I kind of wanted to be a cross between Dan Larson from Toy Galaxy and that other guy. I thought they both had a really good thing going on as far as their presentation. I liked both of them. Yeah, so just so you know, like, I mean, Toy Galaxy, that's kind of what I was shooting for as far as the presentation was concerned. But you have to watch the Fanboy Flicks too, because the Fanboy Flicks was also something I wanted to emulate as well, kind of like a cross between the two of them. um Battle of the Planets, incredible. I think that they should make a live action television show or a live action movie out of Battle of the Planets. But it
They've
was
been
that.
talking about that for
I
years.
know, I
For
know.
years. I don't know why they haven't too.
I don't know.
They've done live adaptations of a lot of things that are far worse. I don't know why they can't do one of that, but
Right.
I could not agree with you more. Oh, Les Chapin says, David, no pad on Wednesday. Think Thrash will be streaming. You are correct at 8:30 on my channel.
Right.
Um, let's see. Skipping down. He then goes on to say, hit the like button, folks.
Please do. Please hit that like button. It means a lot to us here. And share on your favorite social media.
Let's see. Skipping down. Uh, Les Jevin says, Tom meeting your hunter from the future. Was that a Saturday morning cartoon show?
Not
I,
that
re-
I know of.
I remember the feature film. That would have been, 84, 85. That was actually an Italian moderate budget film that they sort of spiced up a little and released in the United States as sort of a very short lived matinee classic. Didn't go particularly well. Have you seen that film?
No, not that I
No.
know of. Not
It's
that I
it's
know of.
it's not bad. It's your typical Italian adventure where it's more of an epic.
Hmm.
It's this guy. He's living like a caveman in these sort of caveman adventures, and then you find out this like Darth Vader villain shows up, and you find out that Yor was actually a hero from the future who was hidden in the past. It kind of goes off the rails, but I'm not sure if Lance is suggesting they turn it into a Saturday morning cartoon show. For crying out loud, I wouldn't be surprised though. I mean,
Yeah.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes got its own Saturday morning cartoon show for a
Yep.
while.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Uh, and skipping down. Here we go. Superlick says, I think Huckleberry Hound, Yogi Bear, and King Leonard were from the 50s.
Yeah, probably.
They
I
probably got their
mean,
start then.
yeah, they got their start there. I mean, 60s for sure. maybe even into the 50s, but 60s for sure, and then watching them in the 70s. Those were not my favorite ones. The Hanna-Barbera kind of thing was not necessarily my favorite. I did like the Flintstones, and I did like the Jetsons, but the Yogi Bear, kind of the Snagglepuss, the Huckleberry Hound. I would watch them because they were cartoons, and I mean, it was something interesting. And sometimes, like I said, if I was at somebody's house, and I didn't really have run of the roost to decide what television show to watch. I was sometimes forced to watch it, and I didn't. I mean, I didn't hate it, but it wasn't like I was looking forward to that. The things I was looking forward to were things like Thundar the Barbarian, the Pac-Man show, the Zorro, Black Star, all those boy testosterone cartoons. I really thought that was some good stuff. I like Super Friends too, as we mentioned there. But okay, so other comments or
Oh,
anything like that?
you made me think of something. I just wanted to read this into the record. Yeah, I certainly remember as a kid, like being in someone else's house and having to watch what they wanted to on Saturday morning. Particular favorite was my grandfather was an avid sports fan, so guess what was on the color TV every Saturday morning? But I know sports, right? Ew. But the thing that always got me is whenever we were guests at somebody else's house, my mother would say, "We were a guest in their house. We have to watch what they want." And yet, when friends came over to our house, yeah, you see where this is going. Yep,
Uh-huh. Yep. Yep. No,
they're our guest.
there are guests.
We have to
We
watch what they want. So I'm like,
Now
well, what
was
is it
your
my turn?
but what was your mom up though when you were watching Saturday morning cartoons?
Solo, no. But when we were visiting somebody, she always was.
Oh,
Because to be
so
polite, So,
so well, what about when somebody was visiting your house? Was she up in the morning?
um, usually if she had to settle an argument, that whole "Mom,
Ah,
Tommy's not letting me watch what I want,"
oh,
and
okay.
she's like, "Well, they're our guest," and
Right.
hence the cycle continues. But
That's
no,
shut up, don't bother me.
bother me. Yeah, my mother was never a particular morning person, which actually reminds me of another anecdote. There was one time where the main TV in our living room had busted, which afforded us only the black and white portable, which my mom kept in her room. So one morning I got a nice big bowl of cereal with ice cold milk. You probably know where this is going. And I hopped onto the bed to watch Saturday morning cartoons, and the bowl popped right out of my hands and right into my mother's bed. And
Oh
she was
no.
disappointingly surprised
It was livid,
by
I
this
bet.
action. So, yeah, so,
Yeah.
so it's funny the little incidents that we remember as children. Mr. Led has a good one. Mr. Led says, I am old school. Popeye is my fave.
Yeah, Popeye was cool. I mean, I dug Popeye. It was all right. Now I don't know if that was ever a Saturday morning thing. I mean, not in my era, but I mean, I remember seeing that. That was kind of one of those more after school cartoons.
Yes, for years, but there were two attempts to my knowledge, to my recollection, to make it Saturday morning. Around 1980, I want to say,
Uh
there was
huh.
a show called Popeye and Friends, and that was actually a Saturday morning cartoon. I don't even know if I've seen a listing for that one. It didn't last very long. It
Hmm.
was it was attempt to try to do contemporary humor in a updated version of Popeye, but there was also the King Features version. I want to say from the late '60s, around the same time they were doing the
Hmm.
uh, um, Mutt and Jeff and
Yeah.
those cartoons. Around the same time they were doing the Archies, and I believe those actually started as a Saturday morning cartoon, but I'm not sure. But I think Mr. Lid's referring specifically to the ones that weren't even made for TV. They were theatrical releases. They were meant as film shorts in a movie theater,
Yeah. Yeah.
and those were the good ones.
Right on.
Okay, getting back to James Borland's comment, and I skimmed this one already, and I apologize in advance if I butcher any of these. But James Borland says one of my favorite Saturday morning cartoons growing up are Mucha Luca and Xylon Showdown on Kids WB. Go Go
Hmm.
Riki on the CW for Kids. I also loved Quabo back then.
Yeah, I think this is a different era. I think this is going to be get into the 90s.
I think this is the
And
2000s, like
oh, is
early two.
it? Oh,
I
okay.
think this is like 2002, 2003, maybe late 90s. But I think this is
Yeah.
even early 21st century.
Yeah, and I watched very few cartoons in the 90s. I mean, I even mentioned my struggle to even stay in tune with TV because I was a young adult in the 90s, so I was out with friends and stuff and I didn't really get to see that. And then plus they had that whole thing where where they ended cartoons basically on Saturday morning. But at the time they ended cartoons on Saturday morning, you had all these things like Nick for Kids and stuff started coming out, and it started coming into new generations and Cartoon Network, and I mean, yeah. So those are cool, but I've never seen any of them. I've never.
Mm.
You're even talking about like CW for kids. I know what CW is, and I didn't even know they had a CW for kids. Much less, just the CW.
John H. goes on to say, "Hi guys, does anybody remember the 1972-73 DFE cartoon The Barkleys? Arnie acted like Archie Bunker, at least a
Yes,
G-rated version of him.
yes, I
Yeah, they were
do.
dogs. They were anthropomorphic dogs.
Oh, they were.
If it's the show I'm thinking of,
I don't know. Let me look it up here. DEF cartoon, the
the
Barclays.
Barkleys. I
Yeah,
think the
let
one
me
you,
see.
I think what you, if just going by the recognition in your face, there was something called "Wait Till Your Father Gets Home."
Yes.
Tom
Okay.
Bosley from
Yeah.
Happy Days, the father of
Oh
Happy Days,
man,
did
you
the
you
voice of it.
yes, you called that really good, man. You're right. The Barclays is a about dogs, right? And that makes sense too. The Barclays, right?
Yes,
Bark
get it, Barkleys. Yeah,
Barclays, yeah,
yeah,
totally.
and
No,
I
I don't know the Barclays. I've never seen that show. I wonder. I should look into that. It looks fun. Looks like a fun show, but oh well. I
I have
I
vague recollection. I would have been 5 in 72.
yeah.
And but I do remember the show with anthropomorphic dogs and the father being the sort of Archie Bunker style loudmouth. And oh hey, look who we have in the house,
Hey, John,
John
I'm glad you could show
Collins.
up. By the way, I just wanted to say too, there's a couple people that have been missing lately. No, you can
Oh
leave his
oh
thing up there.
sure sure.
Um, I don't know what happened to Justin Eilert.
Mm,
I haven't seen him for a while, so I hope he's doing okay. And Spike Spikerson still's MIA, and I hope he's doing okay too. And there's been a couple people that
yes.
if you're part of this community and you don't show up, I'm gonna recognize you. I'm just gonna say, hey, we miss you. We want to see you. I might not necessarily remember your name, but we love having you here. So I hope I hope everybody is doing okay. I don't know what's going on with them, but I hope they're doing okay.
That goes too for me too. In fact, speaking specifically about Spike, I was actually watching from the last time I was on one of Dave's chats. I didn't see him on there either, so I don't
Yeah,
know. Maybe his work schedule changed. Maybe he's got like things he's coping with. But to both Justin and Spike, Thrash is wondering about you. And if any of you can get a message to him, tell him I said sup.
yeah, me too as well. All
And
right.
John Collins says, "Hi everyone, how are you guys doing? Hi Ian and Bob. Ian, thank you for allowing our phone chats. I appreciate them so much."
Hey, yeah, no problem. Any supporter of the show and friend of the show is a friend of mine. So, I mean, you get priority treatment, my friend, for sure. I really appreciate your input, and I want to thank you. So, good. You've been a good friend. I'm, and again, I might be seeing you soon. So, you know, so I've talked about going and doing a cross country visit with people.
Oh,
So.
oh, let me know if you get to the Northeast.
I will.
Please
Hey,
do. Please do.
I will talk with you about it.
Please,
It might be
please do.
coming up within the next year or whatever. It just depends.
That would be outstanding. That'd be
Yeah.
outstanding. Lance Jevon says, I'm on bot watch now. Thank you, Lance. I don't know if this got back to you there, Ian, but we had a couple of trolls um sort of adding their participation to my first live chat.
Oh
And
no.
and my loyal friends of channel leaped to my defense because I'm actually still getting the hang of this. I shot them down, they came back, and it was like people just throwing wrenches at them left and right. It was very touching. Thank you guys a
Mm.
lot for all your help. And Tracy Rosmeyer says, "Funny thing is, my new Saturday morning has turned into watching CBS Sunday morning."
Yeah, Sunday morning, CBS Sunday morning. I think that's when they do like all the talk show stuff, something like that. I don't know.
I usually sleep in on Sunday morning, so your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, and I'm, in church, so I don't know. So, but I think I've seen it. I think I've seen those things before. CBS Sunday morning. All right.
Um, Lisa Field says, "Laugh Olympics had Penelope pit stop. I had forgotten that."
I'm gonna have to look that up. Penelope pit stop.
Oh, that one. That was sort of like the early '70s racing and worldwide race competition crazes. But picture it as if it was done by Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh
It was this
yeah.
racer Penelope, and she had these seven little mechanics who sort of
Oh,
helped her out and protected her from the bad guys. It was actually very cute.
yeah. It does seem that does seem rather cool. So yeah, right on.
And John H points out the dog's name was Muttley.
Muttley.
Muttley was the dog
Yeah.
who didn't he got his start on that pigeon cartoon, didn't he? Was
I
that
have
the
no
first thing?
idea.
Because I just had that song stuck in my head because I was doing a about 20 odd years or so ago there was a CD. It was modern groups doing old Saturday morning kids show themes,
Hmm.
and Stop the Pigeon was one of them. They also had the Butthole Surfers doing Underdog, and there was a great one of HR Puffin stuff, and so on. Oh, and James Brolin says MeTV actually brought back Saturday morning cartoons with Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, Popeye, and the Pink Panther.
Yeah. Well, hey, Looney Tunes. I really enjoyed the Looney Tunes. That's something we didn't mention before. I was a big Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck fan. Elmer Fudd, Yosemite Sam.
Hmm.
There was a couple on there that I didn't terribly care for. I wasn't a terrible fan of the Roadrunner Wiley Coyote, but I was a huge fan of Bugs Bunny and Marv the Martian. Remember him?
I'd show you my camera's down. I have a Marvin the Martian tattoo
Oh well, okay.
on
Well
my
then
upper left bicep. Marvin the Martian was one of my favorites.
Yeah, yeah.
So yes, I remember Marvin the Martian.
I really enjoyed Bugs Bunny and anything Bugs Bunny did, like with Daffy Duck or something like that. That was good. Elmer Fudd, Yosemite Sam. I thought they were really good. The only thing I didn't like about the Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner was, it was a little too, even at the time for me, a little too mundane. I mean, it was a little too, okay, he's gonna step out of the way and he's gonna hit the deal. And he's going to drop something on him, and it's not going to hurt the one character, but the other character, it's going to hurt immensely. I
It
kind of
really
got,
it
yeah.
was a one-trick pony. I'll give you that much. Every now and then it had its moments. Like there's one where he's trying to light this explosive device, and he has this ridiculously long wick. The implication he's going to light it, then run, and he has a match, and the millisecond the match touches the fuse, it all just blows up. It doesn't burn down at all. And I always thought that was just like the funniest thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that is kind of funny because it's unexpected.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I just had that one tonight. I'm so sorry.
It's all
One
right.
thing that while we're on the subject, before that even, I remember back, and this would have been around 2000, TV Land actually had a Saturday. It was super fabulistic Saturdays. It was something that was called like that. They actually had a lineup of Saturday morning cartoons. They had Star Trek. They
Hmm.
had a Lost Saucer. They had a Land of the Lost. They had a bunch of them, and I was managing the video store at the time, and I used to arrange my work schedule so that I closed on Saturday nights instead of opening Saturday mornings, so I could watch the old cartoons.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, well, the other ones that he mentioned there, like the Pink Panther one wasn't my favorite. I didn't really get into the Pink Panther a whole lot. I've watched it, and there was a while there. I know it came on Saturday mornings, but there was a while there where it started airing on afternoons after school, and I couldn't get into it. It was not my favorite thing.
Superplex says, Ian C. and T Pawns, do you remember Beanie and Cecil, Alvin, the Alvin Show, or Quick Draw McGraw.
Oh yeah, I remember Quick Draw McGraw, and is it? I don't know about the Alvin show. I think the Alvin show was that like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yes, and there were a couple of incarnations of that. There was one from the early '80s. There was one later, and I think there was even like one from the '60s. But I remember the
Yeah,
one from the '80s specifically.
I remember the one from the '80s too. I mean, the one from the '80s was I definitely did watch those. I liked them. Got into them. I don't know.
Beanie and Cecil.
Beanie and Cecil.
Beanie and Cecil. It was a little boy who befriended a sea monster, and it was sort of a shameless ripoff of Puff the Magic Dragon.
Oh, okay.
And although at least one person said that Beanie and Cecil was first, I'm not entirely sure. But I remember seeing the cartoon as a kid and saying this is a ripoff of Puff the Magic Dragon, but it was cute.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and I don't remember any of it. So that one definitely slipped through the cracks for me. Yeah.
Tratha Ross Myers says, I used to watch the
History.
Jetsons, Top Cat, Magilla Gorilla, the Croft Super Show. Oh, now you're speaking my language. And the Pebbles and Bam Bam Show.
Yes. Well, Jetsons for sure
Mhm,
watched.
mhm.
Top Cat I know nothing about.
Really? Okay.
Magilla Gorilla. Yeah, I mean, I was a fan. I mean,
Mhm.
I didn't watch it religiously, but I'd watched it. Super Show, not sure, but Pebbles and Bam Bam, I thought were great. I thought that was awesome that they got their own show. You know?
When they were teenagers.
Yes.
And I believe Sally Struthers voiced the teenage Pebbles,
Yeah. Yeah.
if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. Um, Top Cat was sort of like a modern or a contemporary, I should say, um, Sergeant Bilko TV show, only it was alley cats. Top Cat was this conniving leader of this gang of alley cats, and they were always trying get rich quick schemes, and they were always being thwarted by Officer Dibble, who was the beat cop who lived to put Top Cat in jail. The Croft Super Show you've probably heard of because that was
Oh,
it was
I
an overall umbrella show.
I get it. I see Top Cat. Okay,
Oh,
so yes. Yeah, I do know this character,
oh, you
but I don't remember him. I mean, I do remember that I remember him, but I couldn't tell you nothing about him. I could only repeat what you just said. I can just repeat it back. Oh yes, the Top Cat was and then sound intelligent.
glad to be of service. And that Croft Super Show, that was one of those. It was like I want to say like it was like 90 minutes, and what it was basically it was like a variety show, and they
I
would bring
got it.
other shows inside. And the one most that you've probably most likely heard of was Electro Woman and Dinah Girl.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right.
Another
Oh, is that
one.
the one too? Now wait a minute. I'm looking here at the Croft Super Show, and was it all live action?
To my recollection, they were all live action, although most of them included like HR Puff and stuff type men in suit
Cool in the
characters.
Kongs, Cool in the Kong.
Captain Cool and the Kongs were the sort of in-house rock band that was sort of the impresarios. They would introduce one show to the next. They would usually start out. They would have some type of skit or musical number, and then follow up at the end. The guy who played Captain Cool was also the husband of Mackenzie Phillips in One Day at a Time. If you
Oh,
remember One
okay.
Day at a Time, yeah,
Yeah.
he later went on to marry Mackenzie Phillips on the TV show. Another show within that show was something called Magic Mongo, which had Harvey Lembeck was the gentleman I was just talking about. He played Captain Cool. And in Magic Mongo, its claim to fame was it's one of the few live action appearances of Lenny Weinrib. He played the genie.
Hmm.
Lenny Weinrib was a voice actor who is probably best known for doing Time for Timer. Hey
Mm.
kids, a wagon wheel. When you're down on that was
Oh,
Lenny
okay.
Weinrib. He actually did a in front of camera, and the two girls in it. One was Harvey Lembeck's sister, who played the sort of pudgy yet obnoxious girl in Welcome Back, Kotter.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And the other one, her claim to fame is she's now Mrs. Walter White. She married Brian Cranston,
Oh, okay. Right on. Well, cool.
and that's all the trivia I can give you on the Croft Super Show
All
at
right.
this time. Probably a lot of that will be discussed at CroftCon. John Collins says, all the 1980s cartoons, and thank you, Ian, for pointing out some that I never saw on other videos. One thing I didn't like, however, is how they always had to have characters out of character with lessons.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that was a big deal. Like with the Mr. T, like the we that's one thing that I didn't mention. The Mr. T would always it would always be a live action at the very beginning and at the very end, and he would say, "Now what's the lesson we learned? We learned that, if you cheat, it's no good for nobody and not even for you. You're going to get found out and eventually you'll cheat yourself into jail." Uh and and then the GI Joes would be like, knowing's half the battle. Like, they'd always give you something practical too. Like if you see a stranger, again, if you see a stranger, you turn around and walk the other way. And if that person turns around to follow you, then you know that they're after you. And so run into somebody's house. And I remember the McGruff houses too. Remember McGruff houses?
I do remember the McGruff houses.
Yeah, those were houses that you were allowed to just run into. And my mom told me that if anybody tried to get me,
Uh,
or whatever. I mean, we were all worried about being kidnapped in the 80s. I mean,
yeah, I
it was just a thing. And but she told me, she's like, run into any house. It doesn't matter if it has a McGruff sign on it or not. You run into the house. So, you
But
know,
what if the person who owned the house was also a person of questionable morality?
it's like
And it was sort of out of a frying pan into another frying pan.
I guess. I mean, I mean, if I could see a McGruff house, I would run into a McGruff house. But she told me it doesn't matter. Just run into any house.
Yeah, I suppose at that point, it's like you're just running the gambit.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think I almost got. Honestly, I think I almost got. I don't know if I've ever told this story before. I think I almost got abducted one time.
really?
I do. I think I was at the park and I was about 12 years old. And there was this
Hmm.
guy in the park who was playing chess, and I was into chess. And so
Hmm.
I went there and I was just like, oh, hey, I'll play a game of chess with you. And we were playing chess, and he was just, at 12, I didn't know much of anything. Other than what my parents told me to stay away from, but I was just getting this real super creepy vibe from him. And after
Hmm.
the first game, I'm like, oh, I've got to go. And he goes, oh, I was going to show you how to win. I like wanted to keep me
Ooh.
around. And I was like, no, no,
Ooh.
that's my mom over there. Well, God, I think God was looking out for me, quite
Oh
honestly, because
yes.
I just got the creepiest feeling, and yeah, I took off. So,
Oh. Well,
so
God was taking care of you that day, and I'm very glad.
yeah, it was weird. I look back on it and I go, oh, I wonder if that guy was, gonna grab me or something. So
It's funny how looking back, some of the things that you're like, yeah, that was like crazy. Oh, and just on a less creepy note, I stand in awe of your Mr. T impression. By the way,
oh, well,
that
thank you.
was.
Pay the fool, don't like my Mr. T impersonation.
And let's see what else we got going on here. Oh, Superplex brings up a good one. The Wacky Races.
What was that?
Oh, like I say, in the
Or is that
throughout the
part of it?
'70s and into the early '80s, they were sort of obsessed with race cartoons. I think because what they would do is it wouldn't be like a one-shot deal. It'd become a running theme. So what they would
Right.
do is they'd have these shows where people were having a race around the world. There was one where the whole premise was they were all on roller skates.
Yeah.
Um, but the Wacky Races were just that. It was a race around the world by various Hanna-Barbera characters.
Yeah.
And
I'm
every week,
seeing the guy right now with Muttley. The guy with the Muttley, and then the Captain Caveman
hmm hmm
was in it, and then that one girl that you mentioned, I think, was in it too.
Penelope Pitstop.
Yeah, Penelope Pitstop. Yeah, I don't know if I remember those too well, the Wacky Races, but I've probably seen those before.
Oh, we have somebody new in the chat. I just want to say hello to Joe Black. Hello, Joe Black. And he
Hello,
mentions
Joe.
Fang Face. Do you remember Fang Face?
Fang Face. Was this a Saturday morning cartoon for
Fang
children?
Face. If I remember correctly, this would have been around 79, 80. And I believe it was one of those crime fighting
Oh
shows.
yeah, okay.
And it's
Uh
funny because and Fang Face was sort of a crime solving werewolf or something
yeah.
like that. And one of his sidekicks I always thought was voiced by Jason Alexander. Apparently it was not. But all my life I thought, oh, that's Jason Alexander. No, it's not.
So it's
So
kind of like a Scooby Doo kind of thing. It's
similar, yes.
well, like it's yeah. Uh, but instead of the dog, it's got Fang Face.
Exactly. It's sort of Scooby Doo meets Teen Wolf.
Yeah, and Teen Wolf was a cartoon too.
Yes, it was. Now that you mention it,
Yeah, it was a good cartoon. I actually really enjoyed Teen Wolf,
my
the
my
cartoon.
granddaughter's discovered Teen Wolf. By the way, she likes it.
No, I'm not talking about the new one. I'm talking about the Michael J. Fox.
Yes, no, that's what I'm talking about too.
Okay,
She
because
likes the original. Yeah.
there is a Teen Wolf later thing. All right, what do we got here?
Zublik says there was an Abbott and Costello and a Laurel and Hardy and a Three Stooges. I think he's championing the causes of the live action.
Well,
Uh,
I think there were cartoons too, weren't there? Weren't there? Didn't they have?
yes.
I
Oh
mean, I remember
yes,
the
yes.
Three
Now that you mention it.
Stooges being on Scooby Doo. Remember how Scooby Doo would have guests?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
sometimes they'd have Batman and Robin, and sometimes I think they had the Three Stooges at least at one time. But
But
they
there was
may have even
actually there was a Three Stooges cartoon, and what they would do is they would bookend it with them. Curly and Shemp had passed on at this point. I believe it was still Joe DeRitta. But what they would do is they would actually host their own show, and they used to have like these weird adventures where they were still in World War I, or they were like shipwrecked on a desert island. And there was also an Abbott and Costello cartoon as well. Believe it or not, actually, Costello had passed on by this point, but Lou Abbott was alive and actually voiced himself. I don't recall a Laurel and Hardy cartoon, but I'll take his word for it.
yeah. Let me look it up here. Let me see if there's a Laurel. Maybe.
Uh,
L- Uh,
Well, while you're doing that, I do because this one I do remember. Lance Chaffin said the Robotic Stooges. I do remember the Robotic Stooges. It was hysterical.
yeah, there. It looks like there's a Laurel and Hardy cartoon. Maybe. No, I don't know if there's a cartoon or not. Or not. It's showing them animated, but it's not showing. It's not showing me any like video clips or anything. So it could just be still drawings. No, no. Laurel and Hardy cartoon. Love me, my puppy. Huh.
Huh.
First thing that comes up. And now, what was this other one you're talking about here?
The Robotic Stooges. That was actually a funny one. It was like a pure comedy, and it would have been, I'd say, probably around 82, around there. And it was basically just a modern incarnation of the Stooges, only they were sort of like Inspector Gadget style robots where they
Yeah,
had retractable arms and legs,
yeah.
but they were bumbling, and they would always get themselves into some weird fix. Somehow things always worked out for them, but it was very very funny. And they had a controller whose name was OOO, and who had never had any use for them. And I do remember it was as actually very very funny.
Hmm.
Tracy Ross Myers goes, oh, I lost it. Oh, here it is. The artwork on those really Popeye cartoons was just a thing of beauty.
Hmm.
They did put more money into animation back then.
Wow.
Oh, look who's here. Number one
Oh,
dude
number
says,
one
hey,
dude.
Ian and Thrash.
How you doing, number one dude? Glad you could be joining us. I like that picture of your dog there. Bet it's a real friendly dog.
Oh, yeah, those Rottweilers. No, actually, they're actually very, very friendly
Yeah, yeah,
until.
they're great. They are great. I've got a pit, and my pit is so nice, so friendly, except to other dogs. To people, nicest dog in the world. But
James Barlin said, I hated Attack of the Killer Tomatoes cartoon.
yeah,
It's nothing but wasted potential since a watered down animated version of the films. Yes, I'll give you that. Although, did you see the one where they had William Shatner? The
no,
guy who
I'm not
does
that I
the.
remember.
They have a guy do a William Shatner impression. And it's just the funniest thing you could ever possibly imagine because he just keeps inflecting. It's just very funny.
That's pretty good.
Well,
That was a
thank
pretty
you.
good not impression.
Thank you, Ian. I pride myself on my William Shatner impression.
Well, good. I'm glad. Take pride in it.
Lisa Field says, I liked the Dune Buggy cartoon where the car talked and the teens are like the Scooby Doo gang. Love
Yeah,
that cartoon.
Yeah, that was a good one too. That one that was a good one, and the Josie and the Pussycats kind of thing
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like that. That was one of those. Yeah, those cartoons. That both of those were not as well known, but I think they deserve to be mentioned.
And then Josie and the Pussycats, of course, went off into outer space in Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space.
Hmm, that's interesting. I didn't know about that. I did know about the live action movie Josie and the Pussycats. Did you see that one?
Oh, oh yes, I remember Josie and the Pussycats. But I remember there was a later incarnation where they actually go off into space, which was also a good one. And John H says, once my family was staying with my mom's maid of honor, old friend of hers, when we were in Cincinnati, I'm assuming, or Quincy. We'll say Cincinnati for a wedding. I begged out of a visit to my sister's college campus to watch Big John Little John. Do you remember Big John Little John?
You're gonna have to fill me in on this stuff.
Okay, Big John Little John. Well, Robbie Wrist was in it.
Oh, was he?
It's this high school teacher who does like a nature hike into the Florida Everglades. Let's go with that. And inadvertently stumbles on the Fountain of Youth, looked for by Ponce de Leon. Now he realizes that he found it because he gets thirsty, so he takes a sip of water from it. And it's not till he gets home. And what happens is he doesn't drink enough to actually take, but he goes back and forth. So he'll be in his mid 40s one moment, and then all of a sudden, without any sort of control, he becomes a 12-year-old.
He's
And it's
Robbie Reist
Robbie
again.
Wrist, exactly. And it's sort of like your Teen Wolf premise, where he never
Oh,
really knows when he's going to go into these time slips. And of course, it always happens at the worst possible times.
yeah. Oh well, yeah. Of course.
And I always felt as though, I mean, that was a Saturday morning project where there were a lot of live action shows at the time. There was that's where the kids from Caper were on. There were a
Hmm.
couple of others, but I always felt as though it felt like to me like it was probably a prime time pilot that wasn't picked up, and they said, well, we can't sell it in a prime time slot, we'll make it into a kids show for Saturday mornings, because the premise seemed like something that would have been on TV at that time.
Yeah, yeah. Live action, right? Like, well,
Yeah,
obviously,
exactly, live
Robbie
action.
Reese. There are some of those that we mentioned a little bit of
Mm.
those live action ones.
Denny Staten in the house. How you doing, Denny?
Danny, what's going on, my friend? All right,
Uh,
what else we got? Well, I want to
s-
hear the two. So I'm going to put this out there.
oh, sure.
Any cartoons that you didn't mind missing? Because we mentioned it very briefly, but I was into boy cartoons. I was into like Transformers and like I said, GI Joe and Zorro and Thundar the Barbarian and all those things that but there was every once in a while I'd spend the night at somebody's house and they'd have some little sister. She'd want to get up and watch Care Bears or Strawberry Shortcake or something like that. I imagine that the conversation would be different if they were, if the shoe was on the other foot, you know what I mean? Like if they had to watch like Transformers, they'd be upset about that. Or I was more upset about the girl cartoons. I just didn't like them. I remember, yeah, all those cartoons. What were some of the cartoons that you didn't like that you didn't mind missing? You can go Thrash if you want to talk about that or whatever.
Well, my all-time favorite one I didn't mind missing, of course, was the Ewoks cartoon.
Yeah,
I absolutely hated the Ewoks cartoon.
yeah,
It just
hated that
yes.
and hated the Smurfs too.
Yes, yeah.
They were
Someone actually mentioned the Smurfs. I was actually trying to find it since you mentioned it. Someone actually said that they hated the Smurfs. But I got to throw this one up there. Superflix says the kids from Caper ran for a half season. Unfortunately, yes, it was canceled. A lot of those like live action Saturday morning shows just didn't catch on. I'm afraid.
the kids. Oh, that was a live action one as well.
Kids from Caper was a live action one, and it didn't stand the test of time. You might
I
say.
don't remember that one. I do remember every once in a while they have the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. on,
Well,
I don't know if it was on Saturday morning or not, but it was definitely on a time when kids were watching, and I remember those coming on, and I didn't mind those. Those were actually pretty good. The old television show ones.
Kids from Caper was sort of an updated version of the Dead End Kids. They were these group of teenagers who helped fight crime, and they went around in a hot dog truck, and but they were supposed to be like these this youth gang, but a positive youth gang.
Positive.
Positive youth gang. Trey Throsmeyer says the Smurfs were awful. Can't agree with
Yeah,
you more.
they were really bad. I hated them.
But number one dude goes on to say the real Ghostbusters was great.
Yep, I enjoyed the real Ghostbusters. It was actually like lasted like 5 seasons or something like that, and they even revived it on occasion. So yeah, that was a really good one. I like the real Ghostbusters. They were great. They had to distinguish themselves from Ghostbusters. You know that story, right?
Yes, I do. Cause didn't the real Ghostbusters come first in live action?
No, it was Ghostbusters, and it was
Thank you.
live action, and they had a gorilla on there,
Hmm.
and then they bought the rights to use the movie Ghostbusters, but then they wanted to do the cartoon, the Ghostbusters, and the Ghostbusters, the live action, also did a cartoon called Ghostbusters, so they had to call themselves the real Ghostbusters, which was
Gotcha.
really confusing. And I didn't know, like for a long time, I didn't know. I thought maybe when I watched it, I thought maybe it was like one of those things like Charles in Charge or something.
Mhm.
You know, like do you remember watching Charles in Charge?
I
Did you ever
sure do.
watch?
Yes.
Yeah, remember how they had the black haired family, then they had the blonde haired family?
Yes, I do
A-
remember that.
And like if you didn't follow it, I mean, it's not like you could look it up on the internet. I mean, it was just like, what the hell's going on here? I don't know these people, and I couldn't tell which one was earlier or later. Like I watched the Charles in Charge with the blonde haired people, and then I'm watching. Oh, here comes Charles in Charge. I'm watching it, and I'm like, here's the dark haired people, and I'm like, okay, it seems like this is. It seems like they should say something. like what's
Like,
like what's going
why is
on
there a
here?
different family?
Like
Yes,
why did
you
I miss
think.
this? And then it seemed like it was earlier too, so I couldn't tell. I could, like, maybe this was a family and they moved out and moved in. I couldn't go look it up, and I thought the same thing was kind of happening with the Ghostbusters. Like I didn't know. All I would see is the Ghostbusters, and it would be this ape and a couple other weird people, and then the real Ghostbusters. I thought, well, oh, well, maybe there's some subplot here that they changed, venues or families or something, or maybe the real Ghostbusters came in and bought their company.
Well, if I remember correctly, it was I want to say a Bob Hope. It was some comedy from the 40s.
Yeah, yeah,
And so what happened was the title came from this old goofy slapstick comedy. Now the live action one that had the man in suit ape and
yes.
those two other guys it was Forrest Tucker and don't tell me,
Oh,
Larry Storch.
I'm not gonna tell you because I
Yeah.
have no idea.
If you ever watched F Troop, they were the sergeant and corporal from F Troop.
I never even heard of F Troop.
It was a comedy from the '60s about
We're gonna go
an
down a
old west
whole
town.
line of things I
We're
don't
gonna
know
get
because
so
you're gonna be like,
out.
do you know that guy from that? I'm like, I don't know that either. Like, we're just gonna get.
But that was like from 10 years earlier. Because I remember being in high school saying, my best friend coming and saying, have you heard about this new movie coming out called The Ghostbusters? And I said, based on that Saturday morning show from 10 years ago. And he goes, no, no, no. And he started talking about it. And of course, this whole thing was then revisited later on with the Saturday morning cartoons. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of layers there. All right, here's one for you: the Brady's Kids. You remember the
Oh
Brady's
yeah,
Kids?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I did a thing on that on the.
Okay,
I
I
did
remember.
3 cartoons based on television shows or something like that. Yeah,
Remember, I told you about how Marlin, the Blackbird Wizard,
yeah,
was voiced by Larry Storch.
yeah, yeah. I do remember you telling me that.
Larry Storch was one of the guys in that Ghostbusters TV show.
Oh, okay. All right,
So
I got it.
see, we brought it around.
Right.
We
Yeah.
always bring it. We always bring it around. Hungry Jerk says, "Grown men watch My Little Pony. Can't figure that out. I
I
can't
don't.
either.
I don't know who you're talking about. I hope I didn't misrepresent myself and say, "Oh man, I still watch," because I certainly don't. So I don't
Oh,
know.
I think he's referring to cartoons we could do without, and I think he's voting
Oh,
for My Little
yeah.
Pony is one he can
Well,
certainly
I
do
meant
without.
doing without when you were a kid.
Zuberblick said I could do without Scooby Doo.
I felt that way about Scooby Doo at times, but overall, I like Scooby Doo.
I like
Especially when I was younger, I liked it. But
I like Scooby Doo too, but it was always the same show. They always had that reveal. They'd pull the mask off, and it was like Mr. Withers,
yeah,
and I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids.
yeah, yeah.
John H says 1977 78 NBC had Red Hand Gang, which was a bigger hit in UK and Australia. Probably because I don't know what the Red Hand Gang is.
Let me look it up here.
Please do. I'll skip down.
Red Hand Gang. Oh, yeah, it's a live action show. It's a
I
live.
don't
It's a
recall
it's
that
a
one.
live action show. I'm gonna guess. It's kind of a kids solve crime thing.
That's
I'm
oh
only looking at images here. I'm not
oh.
looking at.
Actually, you know what? Yes, I do remember it. It started out as I want to say it was one of those after school specials, and that served as the pilot, and then
Yeah.
it had a short lived TV series as well. I do remember
Yeah,
that.
five crime-solving preteens and their dog Boomer, who lived in the inner city. The group was so named because its members left red handprints on fences to mark where they had been. Yeah, so the Red
So
Hand
there
Gang.
were vandals. John Cohn says, "I like you can't do that on television." I actually wrote a whole article about them on Gamelan magazine.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, I sure did. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, I remember you can't do that on television.
I do too. I
That
love
was
You Can't Do That on Television.
that was
That
Canadian,
first,
wasn't it?
yes, it was. That first season was rough.
Oh, really?
Was Yeah,
Really?
that first season was real rough. You can watch it on like Tubi or something like that. I was watching it. I used to like Moose and Lisa and Alistair and a few of the other characters. Doug. Those are the ones I remember the most.
Alanis Morissette was on it too, wasn't
Yep,
she?
Alanis Morissette was on it. Yeah, she had. There's actually a really good documentary on HBO right now called Jagged with Alanis Morissette, and it gave me a lot more respect for Alanis because I did not like Alanis Morissette when she came out, like with her music. I didn't like. I liked it at first,
Mhm.
and I listened to it, but as I started listening to it, I stopped liking it because I almost thought of her as kind of a phony riding in on the alternative rock scene. But and I just was like, she was into this because I don't know if you knew this, but she was like this pop musician
Mhm. Mhm.
before that. And when I found that out, I'm like, oh, she's just riding in on the coattails of all this stuff. And then I listened to her story and I'm like, oh no, she was legit. She was totally legit, and the stuff that she went through was pretty interesting, pretty interesting. So that's a really good one. And
I, I just
uh,
find it ironic that she did an entire song about irony without one actual solid case of irony in the song.
oh yeah, you mean like that? It wasn't technically ironic.
Yeah, nothing in that song is ironic.
It's
You know,
unfortunate, right?
it's unfortunate. It's bad luck. It's silly. It's mishigots. But nothing is. I mean, like the guy who's afraid to fly and
uh-huh.
dies while he's flying. That's tragic. That's not
That's
if a guy was being saved from a disaster by a rescue helicopter and the copter crashed, that would be ironic. But
ironic,
that's
right?
ironic. But being afraid to die and then dying in a plane crash, that's synchronistic, if anything. But that's
Right.
just me.
Whew.
That's just me.
That's some
Oh,
smart stuff there, buddy.
well, I tend to think inside the box. John Cullen says, "How can we discuss cartoons and not discuss Batman the Animated Series?"
Well, I mean, the animated series in the '90s is different than like I remember the cartoon when I was a kid, but I don't really know the '90s one as much. I mean, I did watch a few in the late '90s and the 2000s. They were really good, actually. It's just I wasn't into cartoons. But the Batman and Robin cartoon in the when did that come out? The Batman and Robin cartoon.
Well, that's. I think he's talking about the '70s Saturday morning cartoon. which came out, I want to say 1978, and had Casey Kasem
Yeah.
as one of the voice actors in it. And again, I want to say maybe 77, but I would say 78.
Yeah, yes. The Batman and Robin cartoon. Well, I'm getting all the new stuff here. Uh
You'll get buried with the new stuff before you get to the old stuff.
yeah. Let me back up and put in the search engine, the Batman and Robin cartoon.
Oh, while you're looking up,
70s.
Kenneth
70s.
Wilkinson is in the house. Hi,
Kenneth,
retro.
how you
Yeah.
doing, my friend? I'm glad you could be joining us tonight. Um, not sure. I don't know if he's been here before. Has he been here before?
Kenneth Wilkinson, I'm almost certain he has.
Oh, well, welcome, welcome. I don't recognize the picture. Maybe he changed the picture.
I think the picture's new, but the name is an old favorite.
Okay, all right. Well, excuse me if I didn't. But I'm glad you're here. However you got here, I'm glad.
And but yeah, the 70s animated show, it was pretty good. It kind of went a bigger sci-fi route. After Star Wars, anything that could go sci-fi went sci-fi.
And they had that little character too. Who was that
Dino
little?
Mutt, who came, not Dino Mutt, Batmite, he came later.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it was a pretty
No, I
solid.
remember the cartoon. I remember
Yeah.
them on Scooby Doo. Scooby
I think
Doo
that's
was
where they got started. Oh,
yeah.
Trathos Minor says, Rob, do you remember the Kiss cartoons? I do not.
I don't remember the Kiss cartoons either.
I don't remember them.
Don't tell anybody this, but I'm not a Kiss fan.
Dun dun.
I mean, seriously, it'll crush Dave if he's listening. I'm sorry, Dave. I know you're part of the Kiss Nation, and I've never said this before because I didn't ever want to disappoint Dave. But I was never a Kiss fan. We got somebody here. Before we get to that, let's get to
Okay, sure.
Gary.
Oh, Gary Carpenter. Hey, Gary. Hello
Nice to have
there.
you with
Hello
us.
to you too.
Mr. Gary. All right, now we can go back to that
Yes,
what
indeed.
Danny was
And
saying.
I was just talking
Welcome,
to Gary.
welcome, Gary. Welcome.
Welcome. Yeah, he was in the comments section of the initial post of this topic. So yes,
That's welcome
Gary.
in sign language, by the way. So if I
It
do
is?
that, yep.
Well, I can't do sign language because I'm stuck in a still shot.
Well, you
Picture
can still
me-
do it. We just can't see you.
Well, all right, take my word for it. I'm giving the welcome sign. I'm giving a verbal sign language. What would verbal sign language be?
So this is verbal or hearing, and this is sign, and this is language.
Actually, verbal sign language would be talking.
Yeah, verbal sign. There's no such thing. But you can make up whatever you want.
And I do. All right,
All
now
right.
Denny Staten is in the house and he says, "Hey, did you see the Hardy Boys cartoon where they were rock stars who solved mysteries?"
I never saw it.
I don't recall the animated. I remember the live action show on
Yep.
Sunday nights,
Yeah,
but
I don't ever recall it.
Hungry Jerk says, "Put Scrappy Doo in prison."
Yeah. Scrappy Doo. Let me get at him. Let me have at him. Always, yeah.
Oh, here's a good one. Denny Staten says, "Hey, Ian, if you actually watch the Daily Dance, the good stuff, you would know all about the Ghostbusters TV show from the 70s."
I think I did pretty good there. Maybe I missed something there. But you know what? I watch a lot of things that I don't remember. Like even the stuff I've done, like seriously, I'll go back and watch that because I'm like looking up facts and you would think I would remember it. Like seriously, like you would think I'll go back and I'm like, oh, that sounded pretty smart. I don't remember none of that. So from here
No, I've done that too. I've been watching something and said, I should really make this point. And as I'm saying that in the post, I'm rewatching of myself. I'm saying it. I go, I didn't remember saying it. I'm just glad that I did.
Yeah.
Number one dude says also Flintstones kids.
Yeah, I like the Flintstones kids. They were pretty fun. I think that was a little bit later in the 80s. I'm not sure. But I do remember the Flintstone kids. They were fun. And Muppet Babies along with that.
I was older at that point, so I wasn't watching it, but I do remember it.
Yeah.
And let's see what else we got here.
Remember Cubert?
Yes, that was around the time they made a number of cartoon shows based on video games.
Donkey Kong, Cubert. This is going to be my next video. Pac-Man. And then also Rubik's Cube. Remember the Rubik's Cube
Hmm.
cartoon?
Hmm. They've actually made fun of that on several posts on YouTube.
Have they?
Yes, they have.
I remember that they had it was with a Spanish family or a Mexican family, south
I
of the border family. Not probably not Spanish. I'm sure it's like Cuban or something like that. So remember, and the Cuban family, because I remember that's what there was. They kept saying "Ay caramba."
I don't remember if I ever actually watched the cartoon. I remember the cartoon,
Yeah, yeah.
but I
Well,
don't
they did do that, and they'd go "Ay caramba," and I remember that from that show.
cringe. Les Jeffin says Knights in Satan's Service, and we all know who he's
Oh,
talking about
Kiss,
there. Mhm.
Kiss, Knights in Satan's service. Well, you know the singer for Wasp, Blackie
Mhm.
Lawless. You know he won't sing Animal anymore on stage.
You're kidding. Why not?
No, because he's a
Why?
Christian. He's a Christian
Oh.
now. Like I didn't know that. I was listening to
Oh.
an interview with him, and people were like, "How come you don't play Animal anymore on stage?" He's like, "Well," and he kind of hummed and hawed about it. And he goes like, "Well, I just don't want to sing songs like that anymore." So that's
No
cool.
kidding.
Yeah, that's really
All right,
cool.
that's cool. Oh, Gary Carpenter says, "Do you remember the Super Seven?" Yes, I do.
The Super
The
Seven. Who
Super
is the
Seven.
Super Seven?
That was a Saturday morning show, and I'm going way back. But if I remember correctly, they were just basically seven people, all who had really each one had a really cool superpower. And each week they would have some type of adventure, and whatever
Were these Hall
crisis
of
they could.
Justice people?
No, no. It
Because
was
I'm
it was. I'm trying to. I can't. If I remember, Super Samurai was one of them. And I can't remember some of the others. I think one was like a Greek god type, one was a Japanese warrior type. One, I think each one had a certain cool ethnic background, and but each week they'd have some type of crisis, and the specific powers of one would be particularly helpful in
was
that
it
instance.
was it live action? My dogs are barking here. We're just gonna have
Oh
to live with
yeah,
it. So I
yeah. Oh
can't.
no, no worries. I
I
love
can't.
dogs.
So the
Um,
Super Seven
it
was
was a
it a
cartoon show.
cartoon? Okay, because I'm looking at the Super Seven and it's bringing up like Batman, not but Batman, but it's bringing up well, yeah, Batman, Superman. It's bringing up Hall of Justice people. Okay, so I put in Super Seven cartoon,
Mhm.
and now it says Tarzan and the Super Seven.
Yes, it was. I forget to mention it was one of those amalgam shows. What they did was it was a couple of cartoons put together in sort of an overall umbrella. And the
Mm,
first half of the show would be remember we were talking about Robert Ridgely, who was the
mm.
voice of not just Tarzan but the voice of Flash Gordon and Thunder the Barbarian.
Okay.
And
And one guy was a stretch guy. It says looks like he was.
in the Super 7, yeah,
Yeah,
Tarzan was his own thing.
yeah.
Tarzan would have his
Oh,
adventures.
I see. Tarzan. Oh, like kind of like when they did Spider-Man and then Spider-Man's friends.
Exactly, exactly. It
Gotcha.
was Tarzan, and they were Tarzan's friends. There may have been one or two crossovers, now that you mention it. But the Super Seven, yeah, one guy was stretchy. One person I think had telekinetic powers. And one person was a samurai, and would go Super Samurai, and he became like, what was it, that Gaijin, that Japanese statue that came to life and wreaked revenge on a town. I can't remember that movie, but take my word for it. But yeah, Super Seven were basically this group of
Yeah.
superheroes.
Yeah.
And again, it was. I remember watching as a kid saying, "Is it always fortunate that whatever villain they face is always one character who has the perfect counter weapon to this guy's plan to take over the world?"
Right,
And
right.
but it was a very fun Saturday morning show. I think Hercules was even one of their people as well. Oh,
Yeah.
Hungry Jerk raises a point. He says the SS in Kiss is a Nazi symbol. No good. You realize three-quarters of Kiss were Jews.
Jewish,
I,
yeah.
I don't think they were advocating a Fourth Reich,
I
but you
don't
do raise a good point. Thank you.
yeah, I don't think the SS was meant to I don't think KISS was meant to stand for anything except for the band
Yes,
KISS.
I don't want to be that guy, but
Right.
in
Right.
fact, Gene Simmons, he talks about this extensively in with William Shatner when he did the William Shatner short-lived interview show. His mother was a Holocaust survivor.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes, and he has an amazing story, which I won't try to misquote because he knows the details better than I do. But it's a very interesting story. Oh, Gary Carpenter, he presents us with at least a portion of the heroes: Isis, Hercules, Sinbad, and Super Samurai.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you,
So
Gary.
that's more than half of the seven. Thank you. That's more than I got. But yes, I do remember it was a very fun show.
Mm.
Let's see what else we got. Oh, Daryl Johnson says sounds like G-Force. I thought G-Force was one of the incarnations of Battle of the Planets. Am I thinking of something else?
So Battle of the Planets is G Force is in Battle of the Planets. G Force is the name of the group in Battle,
Yeah.
but it's
Okay.
called Battle of the Planets. But I don't know if later they made a thing called G Force or not, because I know it went through a couple emanations. It was all based on a Japanese cartoon that didn't have any of those names in it. The guy
Uh-huh.
that made it bought the Japanese cartoons and then
Mhm.
made Battle of the Planets out of it. Like totally rewrote it and spliced things in. You got to watch Toy Galaxy, the history of Battle of the Planets, because it's pretty involved. I was going to
Yeah.
do a video on Battle of the Planets one time, but I listened to that and I'm like, I can't do that's above my pay grade right there.
Yeah. I remember in the original Japanese, it all takes place on Earth, and the people they're fighting is sort of an international terrorist organization. When it was redone for America, he was trying to do a Star Wars ripoff. Hence the Battle
Yes.
of the Planets.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it takes place, it's a war going on between Earth and its colonies and this planet Spectra and its colonies. And it becomes like a whole space civil war situation. In
Yeah.
fact, Keop, I think, is the guy's English name. He's the dwarf guy who was supposedly genetically engineered.
Uh
You
huh.
know how he always is like, he has a weird speech impediment that makes him go
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. In the Japanese version, he is a genius. And what happens is he goes off on these long winded tangents when he's making his point. And the voice actor didn't want to do that. So he's like, how about if I just sort of scat his lines? And it's like, key up, hit the button. Okay, boss. And they're like, you know what? That works. Fine. That works.
They're like,
Uh,
great, great. Okay, let's not get too involved here. Let's keep it simple. This is for kids. Let's keep it about outer space.
exactly. Exactly. And
That's great. That's good to
oh,
know.
one other thing I have to point out about G-Force is, you know how in the American version, every time they destroy a city and someone comes on camera right afterwards and says, fortunately, the city's early warning devices came on and warned every single person to get out of the city before the attack hit. In the Japanese version,
Yeah.
uh-uh. When they trash a city, the people inside the city also get trashed. The body count in Gatchaman, which I
Yeah.
believe was the Japanese
Yep. Yeah.
title, was redonkulous. Like hundreds of millions of people get killed. I think
Well,
in Battle of the
those
Planets
they didn't
4.
mind people dying in those. Like when you watch Voltron, Voltron, they had people dying in Voltron too. Not like GI Joe. Like when some plane goes down, there's always a parachute. You see the
Parachute.
person die safely. Finally, in GI Joe, they did get those robots, and they didn't mind shooting the robots up near, I don't know, the later seasons, at least that I watched in GI Joe. They
Gotcha.
then they finally had robots, and then finally you could kill the robots because
Because they
they
weren't
weren't
real.
alive. Yeah.
You
And
know?
everybody else just, the plane would go down, you see the parachute, but that was, common. The A team, a grenade to go off right in front of a, they'd just roll and run, and all the bad guys would just run away.
Well, that was the trick they used in Sucker Punch because someone told me it was going to get an X rating if all the people in it who they wanted to kill got killed, and that's why in the 4 vignettes in the movie Sucker Punch,
Uh huh.
they go to great lengths in one their World War One vintage zombies, and what happens is the Germans bring back the dead in order to make good their losses on the Western Front, very similar to the plot of Shockwaves. In one, they're aliens, in one, they're robots, in one, they're demons. In Sucker Punch, they never actually fight human beings. So
Hmm.
that in the movie Sucker Punch, I think only 2 people actually get killed. When if you watch the body count, it's
Mm-hmm.
in the thousands because in the vignettes they're always killing things, but they're never people. And I thought it was a very slick way of taking a super violent movie and actually making it not violent at all. It became like a video game.
Hmm.
But our tangent had a tangent, you might say. But that was very interesting.
Right, right.
Oh, and thank you, Gary. Gary Carpenter, you've been a wealth of information tonight, by the way.
Thank
Gary
you,
Carpenter.
Gary.
Gary Carpenter says G-Force was the Battle of the Planets.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I mean that makes sense.
I
But does he mean? Does he mean like it went by this those different names?
Yes,
A
yeah.
different.
That's my interpretation of what he
Okay.
just yes. Oh, and Lance Jeffin says Seven Zark 7.
Seven Zark 7. Never
Seven
heard of
Zark
it.
7 was remember how they would try to make G-Force or Gotchaman make it more Star Wars esque?
Uh huh.
They had to cut so much out of it for the American version. They introduced a very poorly animated robot that was sort of like R2D2, only could speak. And he would come out and kind of give exposition.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it
that
was
was the
Seven
name of
Zark
that
7.
character.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Seven Zark
Okay.
7.
All right. 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 The Magic Door. I don't remember
Oh,
that.
you remember? That's ringing a bell, but I can't quite place it.
Let me see here. Oh, it looks like a live animated thing. I wonder what year it was. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, it's the Magic Door video 2007. Never heard of it. Hmm.
Oh,
Interesting. Go
Hungry
ahead.
Jerk says the little gopher on Go Go Gophers had a speech impediment. Yes, he did. And oh boy, could you not show that cartoon today?
Oh, really?
Do you remember Go Go Gophers?
No.
I believe it was on the Dudley Do Right show. And the entire premise, it was set in the Old West, and it's the U.S. cavalry who are played by dogs. It's sort of the premise of Mouse, I think, is the only way I
Oh,
can.
okay.
And the Native Americans are played by gophers.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
always it's about the sort of test of wills between the two of them.
Yeah, I do know this show. Now that I'm seeing it, I there's so many I don't know by name, but of course I've seen it at least one time. I do, and it's very
Politically incorrect.
yeah, politically incorrect
Very, very much so.
with the
I mean,
Native Americans.
I thought it was insulting when I watched it back then,
Oh,
some
really?
odd 50 years ago.
It was cringeworthy then, and
Yes.
now you're like,
To the
"Ugh."
point where I can't even depict the parts of the cartoon that I find cringy, because that in and of itself will be cringy. But little Gopher, the chief's advisor, spoke totally in like blah, 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 blah type speech.
Yeah,
But yet it was sort of like Chewbacca, where the chief always understood him and would say it back. Oh, so you want me to do this? Good thinking.
yeah.
And um, but yes, he did have a speech impediment. Uh,
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of those things that are just totally cringeworthy now that you don't, and that's funny. They do make like comedy skits out of it. They have a comedy skit on SNL about some guy who did some who did it was supposed to be, it was that guy from, oh, I forgot the name of the show. Um uh Veep. I think the name of the show is Veep, and
Sounds familiar.
he was on there,
Mhm.
and basically in the skit he was being awarded for making like public service videos, like kids don't get into drugs and stuff, and like it shows it, and it's so funny. You have to look it up.
Check.
I don't want to I don't want to repeat it here because it's pretty bad, because there are things that we could say then that we can't say now, you know
Exactly.
like
Even hypothetically, even
uh,
in like microcosmo, it's
yeah.
like, all right, it's like, see if this sounds familiar to you. Remember and this actually happened to me as a child, so it really struck a chord with me. Do you remember there's a very old Simpsons bit where the kids are coming home from Sunday school and the mother's like, "So, what'd you learn in Sunday school today?" And uh, Bart goes, "Hell." And Homer just turns around and says, "Bart," and he goes, "That's what we learned about today. I can't tell you about it unless I say the word now, can I?" And
Yeah.
but that's what it's come to. It's like we can't even say the words that
Well,
we're
yeah.
cringy about. It's
Yeah,
like,
well,
well,
this one used some words and contexts that you wouldn't, if it was on SNL, it's okay, but even repeating it here, I mean, I really don't mind saying it too much, but it's just I don't want to. I want to always err on the side of caution,
well, me too. I never
because
want to become a soundbite.
yeah,
You know what
because
I'm saying?
I'm not looking to be on a YouTube compilation
Mm-hmm.
video of
Mm-hmm.
terrible people on the internet.
How to destroy your career in 15 seconds
Right,
in 2 words.
right.
Exactly. Oh, here's a good one. Mr. Carpenter. Jerry Carpenter says the same people who made Battle of the Planets made Speed Racer. Go Speed Racer. Go Speed Racer. Yes.
Yeah, that early anime stuff or pre-anime or whatever you want to call it.
Pranime. Yeah.
Yeah. There's also a Saturday or not a Saturday Night Live skit with Will Ferrell in it, and he's like playing. He's like supposed to be like a Jerry Lee Lewis kind of character, and
Uh-huh.
he's playing these songs, and they're like, "Hey, we want to listen to these old classics." And the songs that he starts singing just get cringier and cringier. It's hilarious. Like he starts out with his like, "I love my farm girl, and she's only 17," and then it goes, and it just gets progressively worse. And then they start going, I guess it was a different era back then.
I think I saw that one.
Yeah.
I think it's on YouTube, actually.
Yeah, they're both on YouTube. The other one's on YouTube as well.
Oh, Hungry Jerk says, I wished Pops Racer and Racer X made up. Oh, do you? I know. I always made me sad that poor Racer X. I mean, he goes through all this. Finally, oh, and by the way, TV Guide did the top 100 TV shows of all time, and do you know in the top 100, the episode where they do the reveal that Racer X was Speed Racer's long lost brother made it into the top 100.
Oh
But
wow.
but in the end, he and Pops never make up, and I'm like, oh come on, what does it take? He basically throws the race so that Speed could win and they can save whatever it was they were saving. It was some island or something. I forget. I haven't seen the movie, the episode in probably
In a
50 years,
long
but
time.
long time. But I mean, I do feel bad for Racer X, and yes, I
Yeah.
couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got going on here. Oh, too true. Gary Carpenter says Don Adams did the voices of Tennessee Tuxedo and Inspector Gadget.
Oh yeah.
Sure
Well, that
did.
makes sense. I was not an Inspector Gadget fan. I did not like Inspector Gadget.
I could take it or leave
Gotta
it.
say, I just was not a didn't. No, that was a Nickelodeon show, and there's a Nickelodeon show called Sebastian. Do you remember that one?
No, I
It
don't
was it was
actually.
a dog. It was like early anime,
Hmm,
where you'd go like, and then the guy would run and it showed like the thing behind him and stuff. But it's a big one of those big husky dogs, and the dog's name was Sebastian. That was a pretty good one, as I
Yeah,
recall.
I don't recall that one. No.
Yeah, I was on Nickelodeon about that same time, and who knows what they were pulling from at that point? They were pulling
Well,
from everywhere.
really,
So,
let's see.
well, what else we got
Well, let's
going
see
on
what else we
here?
got. Oh, Daryl Johnson says Ultraman. Man,
Ultraman.
that sure ran forever.
Yes, yeah, I do remember. I do remember Ultraman. Let me look it up here. But
Yeah.
Ultraman.
I was going to say that
Let's
started
see.
in the early 70s, I want to say.
Oh yeah, okay. So this was yeah, yeah. This was one of those Japanese cartoons or live action thing.
Oh, yes, it was
Ultra,
live action.
Ultraman.
But it was
Yeah,
sort of a man in a suit because you always saw him in his uniform.
yeah,
Oh, and Hungry Jerk says Kimba the White Lion. He
yeah.
was pretty tough for a cub.
Kimba the White Lion, was that the one that they got um
Lion
the
King
Lion King
got
got
sued for?
sued? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And there were enough points of difference, I believe the whole thing kind of went away. I don't think did Lion King lose, or I thought Lion King won because
I
there
can't
were enough
remember.
points of difference.
I don't
But
remember.
I do remember that was kind of a big thing. But it wouldn't be the first time Disney borrowed from someone else's intellectual property, now would it?
No,
You know. Oh, personal favorite, Gigantor. Of course,
never
he's
even.
bigger than big, stronger than strong. Do you remember Johnny Socko, Giant Robot?
Sounds familiar.
It's the same kind of story. Basically, this brilliant but quirky scientist builds a robot, and the
Hmm.
robot has some type of link with this boy. and the boy has a control box, which is basically a double set of joysticks. It was sort of the precursor to video games. And the boy, whose name eludes me for the moment, but the boy and this giant robot called Gigantor have all these adventures, and they face like giant monsters, other giant robots, aliens, international terrorists,
Mm.
all kinds of fun stuff.
I'm looking at Gigantor right now, and I don't remember it at all.
My
So,
mother has. We're going back 50 years here. Apparently, when I was like little, like preschooler, they used to show it on afternoons on a channel in my area, and they canceled it, and I had a meltdown,
oh no.
and I didn't believe that it was canceled. I thought my mother just didn't want me to watch it anymore because my parents did that from time to time. Oh, show's over. Click,
Oh
and
yeah,
I'm
right.
like,
Yeah, like, yeah, I know who you fooling here.
uh huh. And so what
I'm
happened
eight and a
was
half, not eight.
I didn't believe the show was canceled. And my mother tells a story to this day. She actually called the network,
Uh
this
huh.
local UHF network, and begged them to put it back on. And they go, "Sorry, ma'am, we don't have that package anymore. We don't have access to that TV show." And
Mm.
she's like, "Please, I'll give you money. I'll do anything." And
You were that attached to it, huh?
apparently, or at
Yeah,
least I
that's
drove my
cool.
mother crazy enough. A happy Mother's Day, Mom, by the way. Oh, yeah, Hungry Jerk says, love Johnny Sacco. Do you know, I was watching Johnny Sacco is a live action show, but same type of thing. A boy with a connection to this giant robot. I was watching the end of Johnny Sacco not too long ago. It was on a YouTube post, and I actually got very, very sad. I became verklempt from this Japanese kid show. Well, I don't want to tell you how it ends, but it had a very, very sad ending, which saddened me. And it's funny what gets us nostalgic. Let's see. Danny Staten says, "LOL. How about Grape Ape?"
Yeah, we talked about Grape Ape before, or I think it was earlier. Maybe it was before you joined us.
I was going to say we
But
certainly did, but I wanted to throw that up to you.
yeah, Grape Ape, good, solid program. Solid program. Not necessarily one of my all-time favorite, but I know a lot of people really enjoyed it, and it was good. And you had mentioned before that Grape Ape was on Tom and Jerry from time to time.
It was one of those amalgam shows where they took two different shows and made them like an hour length show. Yes.
Mm.
Oh, we have somebody new in the chat. Plus Ultra Adrian.
Nice to have you in the chat.
He says
Welcome.
hello. Hello to you too.
Everybody can
And
remember that sign now. Welcome.
yeah, I
I'm
still
gonna
can't make it. I'm still in still shot.
slowly teach you sign language as we go along here. So,
I know how to say beer. 'Cause I used to drink with a couple of guys who were deaf.
oh,
So I know
did you
you make the little stroke down the side of your yeah, exactly.
with the B hand beer? Yeah.
Plus Ultra Adrian says, I love Garfield and Friends.
Garfield, yeah, Garfield and Friends. I don't know if that was Saturday morning or if that was Saturday afternoon, or not Saturday afternoon, or an afternoon kids show. I don't remember which one that was. Um, and I do remember that there are differences too. By the way, like if there it was made for afternoon, it was like 20 episodes per season. If it was made for Saturday morning, it was like 13 episodes per season or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but there's a little bit of difference. But I do remember Garfield and Friends, and the other one that was similar. Well, it actually wasn't similar at all. They're actually very different, but other than they were both cats. But you remember, you know who I'm talking about?
Heathcliff?
Yeah, Heathcliff,
Yes.
Garfield and Friends. Yes. Did you watch Garfield and Friends or no?
I had tuned out by that stage. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
remember it, but I did not watch it. One thing, and they pointed this out on Rick and Morty. One of the funniest is, now of course in the live action, I'm not the yeah, in the Garfield movie, he's voiced by um
Bill
uh
Murray.
Bill Murray. Bill Murray, who also does the voice of Venkman in the live action Ghostbusters. In the cartoon of Garfield, he's voiced by Lorenzo Muzak, who also voices um, Venkman in the Saturday morning Ghostbusters cartoon show. So there's
Oh
just
wow.
this weird connection between the two.
Yeah. I liked Heathcliff a little bit better. It was actually a little bit more mature. kind
I
of a
can see
thing.
that. I can see
Yeah.
that.
Did you ever watch Heathcliff either or no?
I do. Heathcliff actually was on TV first, actually,
Mm.
and in fact, I remember when Heathcliff first came on TV, it got knocked a lot for being a Garfield ripoff. Well, guess what? Heathcliff actually came out first.
Oh, did it?
Garfield just somehow became more popular. But I
Yeah,
do. Yeah.
it was really different. I mean, they were not the same other than they were both orange striped cats, tabby cats. Other than that, I mean, they were completely different. Garfield was a house cat who overate and loved lasagna, and Heathcliff was like an alley cat who would get into fights and stuff and had a
Yeah,
girlfriend and
kind of a badass. In fact, I remember, and I think in the first
yeah.
episode, but at least an early one, someone messes with Heathcliff, and Heathcliff goes to beat the snot out of him, and right before he hits him, he goes, "Try to think of this as a learning experience." And to this day, when I go, like, if I mess horsing around with somebody and I'm like, I'm going to fight you, I'm like, try to think of this as a learning experience. And that's from like 40 years later, and I still use this line I got from Heathcliff.
Right, right. Exactly. Yeah, that's that's funny. That's funny. I liked Heathcliff better though, because it was a little bit more rough and tumble, ready, ready to roll. Garfield was fun too. I liked Odie on Garfield.
Yeah,
Garfield Garfield was a little more Smurfy for me, if you know what I mean. It's a little too vanilla.
yeah, a little too kiddie stuff.
Yeah, a little too vanilla. The only
You're right.
redeeming character I really did like in the Garfield characters was Odie. Odie was cute, but I'm a dog person, so love dogs.
I can tell just from
Yeah,
your background. Yeah.
right, right.
Superlook says, "Is anyone else dying to see SpongeBob and Patrick Star get their comeuppance?"
I don't know what you mean by the comeuppance. I love, SpongeBob was one of those rare cartoons that I actually liked as an adult. I can't say I watched it a whole lot. So my wife owns, was running a private school, and my stepdaughter's running it now. And I had worked there on and off from time to time, and so like there was a time there where I would catch like cartoons for kids. Because I don't, I think when you get older and you watch cartoons for kids, it's because your kids are watching them, and so I don't have children, so like I never got that I mean, I would talk to friends who had kids and they'd be like, "Oh man, I love watching, this show." And I'm like, "Why would you watch that?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, they've got kids." And they'd try to get me to watch it, and I would watch it, like these shows made for kids, and I'd hate them. I'm like, "I'm not into this at all. Like I don't know why you like it other than you have to watch it for your kids." But but SpongeBob was an exception. I actually really enjoyed SpongeBob. I can't say I was a total nerd fan, but whenever it was on, I was like, "Hey, this is actually pretty cool." So,
Well, I told you my SpongeBob story yet, by the way?
maybe, but tell it again.
Well, many years ago, when I was a much younger man, I was still in college. Tom Kenny, as you know, got his start as he was a stand-up comedian, and he actually came and did a set at my school at one of our comedy nights, and he had just done Carolyn's Comedy Hour like a week before, and it was so funny because I was working the door at this place, and just as he's like leaving, I go, "Hey, you were great on Carolyn's Comedy Hour the other week," and he did like this like 360, like I thought he was gonna fall over, and he's like, "You saw that?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you were great." And he goes, "Oh my god, that's so good. Thank you for watching." And I'm like, "Yeah, don't worry, you're gonna go places." And he did. He became the voice of SpongeBob.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Well, I think we're kind of coming to the end here. Oh, I just want to say this,
I was
Kevin.
just gonna say, Kevin Tarrant.
Yeah.
Hey brother, sorry I'm late. I'm late. Oh, I'm coming again. Hey brother, I'm sorry I'm late. I was busy. No worries. Sadly, you made it to the very end. But
Yeah, that's all right. I'm glad you made it, but we are going to be ending the show here. I think an hour and a half is about all I can handle and make it worth anybody's entertainment. After an hour and a half, even myself, I kind of get a little bit burnout. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you to everybody out there. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you're watching and you haven't subscribed yet. Support us. You can support us now on Venmo, which is at singularity_productions. So here we go. I'm going to put it in the chat. Singularity underscore productions. See, like I do that. Singularity Productions. If you want to support the show, um, and I am working on trying to upgrade a few things. I want to get a GoPro for a better camera, and I also kind of want to get I want to get a better movie editor. I was talking with John Collins about that today. So yeah, if you're interested in donating toward that, I would love that. But you can also just support us on the retro serial page, the Patreon page. That's what I'm thinking. And yeah, anyway, you could do all that, and it would be much appreciated. But the biggest thing you can do is really just subscribe and share, and you're all really good friends of the channel in doing that right there. Thrash, everybody needs to subscribe to your channel too.
Pretty please, sugar on top. And everyone, please, if you enjoyed my first live stream last week, please join me for this week's live stream this Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And if you didn't join me last week, then definitely join me this week. May
Mhm.
11th, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I think people want to know too. I'm getting some things here about like my you're not it's not necessarily saying anything about my wife, but I hear you saying stuff like our thoughts are with you. Um yeah, so she's doing okay. I mean, it's a slow degrade downhill. I mean, it's not like it's a sharp turn, so it's not fun. And we did see the oncologist today, Dr. Derek Haslam, and we went in to talk to him. And I talked to him privately afterwards. I said, give me the straight doc. Am I looking for a straight downturn, or is it just like a little bit at a time? And he's like, yeah, it's more of a slow fade out. So that's unfortunate. So keep us in your prayers. But again, I know where she's going to be. We have faith in Christ, and we believe He's paid for all of our sins. And through trusting in Him, we will receive eternal life. And that's my PSA to you. So, anyway, I just want to thank everybody for that. And we will talk to you again later. See you, everybody.